Good evening, everyone. We will now begin the evening service of the Miroku Association headquarters, expressing our gratitude to God and Meishu-sama for blessings and protection received while participating in the construction of paradise on earth. Amatsu-Norito and Miroku Prayer, please stand. Taka amahara ni kamusumarimasu. Kamurogi kamuro mino mikoto mochite. Sumemi oya kamuri zanagi no mikoto. Tsukushi no imuka no tachi hana no odo no ahagi hara ni misogi hara itamo utoki ni narimaseru. Arai no kami tachi moro moro no magagoto tsumi kegari yo harai tamae kiyome tamae to mausu koto no yoshi o amatsu kami kuni tsukami ya o yorozu no kami tachi tomo ni amen no uchi koma no mimi burita jete kikoshi meseto kashikomi mo maosu. Miroku o mikami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Miroku o mikami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Oshie mi oya mushi no kami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Oshie mi kami mamori tamae tamae. Kam nagara tamachi haemase. Kam nagara tamachi haemase. Great God of light, creator and giver of all life, in accordance with your divine will, the long age of night draws to an end. Your radiant divine light awakens the dawn of the glorious age, a time long awaited by all humanity. We thank you for guiding us to your divine plan and for the privilege of channeling and receiving Johrei. May our spirits and bodies be illuminated and purified as we live your truth given to us by Meishu-sama. Effective instruments of your divine light, so that we may serve you and all those with whom we come in contact. May paradise on earth be realized with health, peace, and prosperity, a reality in our lives. Great God of light, bless and protect us. Radiate our souls with your divine light, so that we may truly become instruments of your great plan. Please be seated. We will now receive group Johrei.
May God and Meishu-sama bless you.
Johrei is now concluded. We will now listen to a reading from Makoto. Nothing is as precious as priceless as true Makoto. Nothing else has the power to piece even the hardest iron rock. Makoto integrity is a most priceless treasure nurtured in the hearts of sincere honest people in whom there is no falsehood. The basic reason the world's problems remain unsolved is the lack of Makoto within the hearts of its leaders. Excuse me. Makoto love and honesty means to think first of the good of others, making your own interest a secondary matter. It means to love others and to work for the welfare of society and for the world. Makoto means honesty and truthfulness, the opposite of deceit. However, honesty alone is not enough. You have to use your wisdom. Your actions have to be based on common sense. Trying to advance the interest of your own country or your own class appears good, but it is not true Makoto. It is a small Makoto. And if it is pursued further, we will eventually become the opposite of Makoto. To work for the welfare of all humanity is true Makoto.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the evening service of the Miroku Association headquarters. This evening, the faith experience I would like to share with you is from the Ikebana Sangetsu instructor Patricia Harui da Silva from the Lisbon Center, Portugal. Faith experience she's sharing with us is related to a change in her attitude towards daily tasks as a wife and a mother of three. The way she took care of her family, cleaning, tidying her home, and cooking was not always the same. Some days it was just to keep the house clean and beautiful, others out of obligation. Others it was to get it out of the way as quickly as possible, and still others to please her family. At meals, one of the most obvious situations was the fact that she was never able to please her children's different tastes at the same time. Thus, she chose one at a time with the foods they liked best. But if on that day one ate with satisfaction, the other did not like it so much. And tidying up the house, something similar also was to keep the house clean and tidy, out of obligation, and for that her older children should also help. So every time she was away from home, it became a mess. And it was time to tidy it up. It was very difficult to get their cooperation, and sometimes a certain irritation manifested in her. When Patricia studied the guidance of the late Reverend Watanabe about the formation of paradise at home, she realized that her sewing was an obligation to keep the color of beauty at home and to please only one at a time, and that thinking was wrong. She started cooking with the attitude of making everyone happy, regardless of whether it was the food the most pleased one or the other. In tidying and cleaning the house, she began by asking her children for help, but with the sewing to make them useful to God and Meishu-sama. She expressed her appreciation for each task done, no matter how small, Her words of thank you made them happy. And because they saw their mother happy, they tried to please her even more. So they start offering to help. The result was as unexpected as it was surprising. One day, she made beans, food that her daughter doesn't like, but she prepared it with discerning so that everyone could eat with great satisfaction and feel happy. During the meal, she heard several times, "Oh, these beans are delicious." She later found out that when the Japanese immigrants arrived in Brazil, and Patricia is a Japanese descendant, they were deprived of rice. They had to get used to eating beans every single day, as it was the food they had while primarily working in farming fields. She surrendered the suffering of her ancestors in her prayers, and today all her children are very in housekeeping. The change was even more notorious. On the day of her dedication at the center, her children stayed at home. She was on her way back near home when she heard the sound of a vacuum cleaner. Her two eldest children were vacuuming the house without Patricia even having asked. They had already cleaned the bathroom and set the table for lunch as beautifully as they could, choosing the silverware, etc. Before her inner change, she could only have turned upside down. She understood that her children were utilized for her to change this very important point in education at home, to make the children useful to God and Meishu-sama, and to transform a daily routine, family meals, into an important moment of sharing, of joy and happiness, thus strengthening the bond between parents and children. This was the experience she lived, which she continues to practice daily and believes it is useful to share. Her gratitude to God and Meishu-sama as well manifested themselves through her children and nation. Her commitment is to maintain harmony, doing mainly small daily practices of our day-to-day for the formation of paradise in her home. It was very nice from the Sangechi instructor Patricia Haurue Silva. And another faith experience I would like to share with you is from Sandra Sueli dos Santos Correia. She's from Macapá Johrei Center, Brazil. Sandra has been a Johrei member for 32 years. 12. She suffered a lot from her father's transition to the spiritual realm. She enshrined his spirit and requested memorial services for him. However, she felt a deep to the point of going into a state of depression. She isolated herself, avoiding any contact with people she knew. She also stayed away from church activities. Sandra refused all invitations from ministers and missionaries to dedicate, and she began to live only for her work. She sought psychological help but didn't show consistent improvement. She was ashamed for having turned away from the divine work after having received so many blessings. Nonetheless, she did not have the strength to return to being an active member. Her situation only began to change in that's because she received a call from a missionary responsible for Sorei Saishi, which is the enshrinement of ancestors, at the Johrei Center, offering to update her enshrinement records. Thus, after many years, she requested memorial services for her individual ancestors as well as for her family lines. On that opportunity, she was guided to engage in some practices of faith until the November annual ancestor service in Brazil. These practices were offering donations of gratitude, watching our online services, channeling Johrei, and doing mitamamigaki in her home. The mitamamigaki is the dedication of cleaning one's surroundings as a soul polishing. In addition, she sent the online daily services links. She dedicated with her youngest daughter, and they were accompanied by video conference by the missionary. Gradually, her feelings started to change. She was increasingly happy and strengthened. On November 2nd, during the online service broadcast, her heart was overflowing with happiness for having the opportunity to experience that moment of communion with all her ancestors. After that, she took the advanced course for members level 1, and she's already taking the course level 2. In June of this year, she took on the role of family assistant, and she seeks to assist people with the same affection with which she was taken care of. With the commitment to dedication and serving others, her happiness was. Today, she doesn't show any signs of depression and has returned to a healthy social and family life. With this experience, her faith was renewed, and she could see how important it is to take care of our ancestors and serve the divine work. Sandra is very thankful to God and Meishu-sama for awakening again to her mission, as well as the missionary who, with great affection, encouraged her to put into action our practice of faith. Thank you very much for listening to these beautiful faith experiences. I wish you a very wonderful evening and wonderful rest of this weekend. Thank you very much.
This brings to a conclusion our evening service. Thank you everyone for joining us and have a blessed evening.